The most terrifying artifact of the forged sword competition was not the Chinese pair of Ziwu Yuanyang battle axes. The Ziwu Yuanyang battle axe made out of stacked large horses can even easily cut through 2 large wooden roots with the blade intact. Of course, not just anyone can make such a powerful Chinese weapon. In order to select qualified people, the program team prepared 4 bundles of golf clubs of 52,100 high-carbon chrome steel ball. The contestants had to hammer a specialty short sword based on these 2 materials. It's the first time I've seen a knife forged from a club and a steel ball. That's too much for the contestants. The 3-hour countdown began. After testing the strength of the clubs, I took out the club heads and prepared to make 3 of them by wrapping them and hammering a combat camping knife. The thought process is clear, but this is also really not afraid of accidents when you go straight to the machine forging before it is burned through. The good thing is that the steel bullet is strong enough not to crack directly. It's that when he was using the power hammer, he was not careful and flew the handlebar directly. Trevor took the time to comfort II while he was calcining the rod head. He then forged and elongated the rod head directly, wrapping steel bullets to make 3 pieces of steel. To make them fuse better, Trevor sprinkled some flux to help with the fusion. Needless to say, Trevor is really fast. Raf also threw the steel bullets straight into the furnace after welding the hand rods on them. While the calcination heats up, Raf stretches and elongates the rod head directly. He used the same method as Trevor, wrapping the steel shot to make 3. The difference is that Raf seems to be psychic and keeps talking to the otherworldly while forging the blade. Good lord, is this a request for help? Thor goes off the beaten path and just cuts through the club and starts forging the blade. The club was slightly thinner, but it was more of a welded fusion of red coat and high-carbon steel, making it easier to forge the blade. An hour passes and Trevor fuses the steel and begins to shape the blade. At the same time, he gives the judges a little Zen Kung Fu. Thor's 3 steel forges are well connected, but the steel is just a little thin. He still has to be careful with the hammer. II, on the other hand, forged the root of the blade with a direct upstroke. As for the slightly shorter blade, he decided to attach 2 more pieces of soft steel to the root and wrap the hard steel for extension. Theoretically, as long as the fusion one could be accomplished, a handsome blade could be hammered out. The maneuver blew Corky away, calling the kid a genius. Raf, on the other hand, was just about to hammer out a knife, but he hit too hard and cracked the embryo. In this case, Raf decided to spread a little flux first. This operation, even forging knife judges are shocked. He then fused the steel and cut out the small delamination on the edge to complete the shape of the knife. Sure enough, the problem was easily solved. In the last hour, Trevor, who had hammered out the blade early, started drilling the root hole. II hammered out the root and then went straight to hardening the blade, which was very good in terms of hardness. Raf was ready for a burnishing to preserve the toughness of the back of the blade for the second round of strength testing. Trevor followed suit and finished quenching the blade, which was also very straight. For the last 15 minutes, Thor went straight to show the guys what cold knife forging is all about. This one nearly pissed Corky off, not to mention toppling his chances of advancing to the next level. Right now he can only try to weld it, at least he has to deliver a fire-hardened knife to finish the task. Time was up and the first round of challenges ended. 3 lucky winners and 1 unlucky one were greeted with the first round of audits with their signature handsome knives forged from golf clubs plus steel bullets. First up was Trevor's Saxon knife, which was very well finished, not to mention Corky was very pleased with the hand hammer drilling operation. Next up was Raf's camping knife, which had a slightly rougher blade, but the side forging was pretty good. Thor's Bowie hunting knife is unique in the way it is forged from a club, but the blade is more or less thin. Lastly, II's camping combat knife is not bad except for a slight thinning of the blade at the root joint. At the end of the critique, the judges decided to eliminate Thor after discussion, mainly because his knife had broken and was too thin, and the shape of the knife was so thin that Seven was afraid that it would crack if he pinched it gently. The remaining 3 contestants advanced to the second round to continue forging knives. In addition to adjusting for flaws, several contestants had to assemble the handles of their knives from materials readily available in the material room. At the same time, they had to add elements of golf clubs. Once completed, they were handed over to the judges for high-intensity testing. The 2-hour countdown began. II first cut the aluminum piece for the club head to prepare for the round head cover. Then he found a piece of G10 material with the intention of making a wrap-around grip for added strength. Raf, on the other hand, cut a piece of Marcaida for the shank material, as well as club sticks to hold the shank in place to reach the golf feature. Then, after drilling the holes for the shank material, he decided to use the clubs as pegs as well. This allowed for a quick assembly and met the requirements of the program. In the last hour, II sharpened the shank and assembled it with a G10 clip. It looks good, but the handle is not pinned and feels like it could be the cause of cracking. Raf is going to grind the handle slightly wider and thicker to enhance the feel. Trevor, on the other hand, sharpened his hand oval hilt still on the skinny side. After that, he even tested the blade sharpness with the back of his head. Good lord, that's tough. Time's up and the second round of challenges is over. First up is Jason's strength test of cutting steaks. Raf's camping knife came first. The blade was no problem at all, just a slightly uncomfortable grip. Next up was Trevor's awesome knife, which also had an intact blade, especially with the 3 holes for securing the hand lanyard. Last but not least was II's camping combat knife, which has an excellent design for the end of the blade's pommel cover but a small crack in the handle seam, making it a safety hazard, so it's highly likely that the blade has broken off at the base at a slightly thinner point. For safety reasons, the reviewer did not intend to continue with the test. The IIA competitors with cracked handles can go home for dinner before it's too late. In the end, Trevor and Raf advanced to the 3rd round of the finals. The two will go home and hammer the Chinese Meridian Mandarin Duck battle axe to separate the two. The Chinese Ziwu Yuanyang battle axe is a unique pair of double-edged weapons that can be used as an extension of the limb to defeat the enemy. This double blade started in the 19th century and was the imperial weapon of the Bagua sect. Usually the practitioner holds the sword in both hands to master the art of pincer cutting and weapon disarming, while also being able to hide it in the broad sleeves to surprise the opponent. The most obvious feature of the Mandarin Duck battle axe is that in addition to being light and flexible, it can be used in a ratio of 1:2 by those who utilize it. Speaking of which, this blade was featured in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. 2 people were given 5 days to forge the sacred forged knives at home, requiring that each knife be equipped with double overlapping half-moon blades and grips, and that the blades be sharpened in the forward direction. At the end of the 5 days, the contestants return with their knives and present them to the judges for intense testing, with the winner being crowned the winner of the competition. When Trevor got home, he went straight to work on his Ziwu Yuanyang battle axe, pulling out the Dharma steel embers. After all, he hasn't hammered many of these oddly shaped Chinese artifacts, and forging them in Damascus steel will improve his chances of winning the finals a bit more. Next, Trevor made a design to break down the forging process. In the end, he decided to cut bevels, make curves by hand hammering, and then forge the joints. It was just a little slower. Raf, on the other hand, first straightened out a design to delve into the Mandarin Duck battle axe. And then he directly burned a piece of finished steel, preparing to split it in half from the center to make a one-piece blade embryo. Although his thought process wasn't quite the same as ordinary people, it wasn't a bad method. Only that the final mold knife embryo was a bit abstract. The next day, after Trevor cut 2 pieces of Dharma trimmings to try it out, he decided to cut the Dharma blade embryo and use parallel forging to make a Mandarin Duck battle axe. This was stronger, not to mention a bit easier to quench the fire. The hardness was very good and he was satisfied with both of them. On the 4th day, after Raf hammered out the 2 Mandarin Duck battle axes, he also grabbed the time to complete the quenching, and the blade was also very hard. Even after fine grinding, he was going to advance the strength, a whole surprise. Good lord, this time it was a surprise and a delight. Time came to the last day. Trevor made the handle material fittings and then applied glue to complete the assembly of the knife handle. It can be said to be a tight fit, and now all that was left was the final edge and fine grinding, and then it could be wrapped up. After that, Trevor experimented with everything in the house that he could stab, and it was really good. Raf, on the other hand, would have to reopen on the last day. It was still finished steel cut in sections, but hammering for 3 days in one day was not something that could be accomplished by the average person. Of course, a hammer to crack is also not the average person can make. 5 days later, the two returned to the ring with their Mandarin Duck battle axes. Raf's Mandarin Duck battle axe is forged with 5160 spring steel. Although the parts are a bit rough, it's not easy to make it in one day. Trevor's Mandarin Duck battle axe is forged from 29 layers of stacked Damascus, and the handle material is G10 with delicate mosaic nails. Both Mandarin battle axes are very distinctive, so which one is better? First up is 7 stabbing a pig in the face test. Raf's Mandarin Duck battle axe comes first with a textured blade design and a nice feel in the hand. Next is Trevor's Mandarin Duck battle axe. So his Mandarin Duck battle axe is a bit more raw, and the sense of balance and hand feel are also very satisfactory to 7. The second round was 7's sharpness test for stabbing sandbags. Raf's Mandarin Duck battle axe is pretty good. Trevor's was even better. Finally, Corker's strength test with a machine hammer. It's said that this baton has a force of nearly 2 tons. Raf's Mandarin Duck battle axe didn't break or get damaged. Trevor's Mandarin battle axe smashed the top of the stick. Good guy, the self-attack ability can be okay. At the end of the 3 rounds of testing, after the judges' deliberation, the winner of this period is Trevor. Raf's Mandarin Duck battle axe is not refined enough, and its performance is not as good as Trevor's Mandarin Duck battle axe in 3 rounds. Congratulations to Trevor for taking the $50,000 bar.